welcome to the Clipit podcast. How are we all doing today?
I'm
Hello,
feeling very
everybody.
talented.
Good. I'm glad you're feeling talented because you are talented, both of you.
Yeah, I'm not sure what's talented about sitting here talking, but hey, I'm glad something is.
Well, you should, because talking for 2 hours to an audience sometimes can be
Bastards.
annoying. But no, it can be very hard. Sorry, very strenuous, I would say. I like genuinely, in my opinion, working. This is kind of off topic. No, I was going to say working with
There is no topic, yeah.
customers and customer support is so much more tiring than anybody who hasn't
I take it
experienced that
back, it
is
was
a
off
lot
topic.
more. Like just I don't know. Working in this is very tiring. People don't understand. Anyway, how are you both doing today?
Yeah, I'm alright, apart from the audience taking years off my life, the sods.
Yeah. I was doing alright, but then this audience people turned up, and now I feel like weakened, and it's almost as if the soul and essence of
Crippled.
my being has been crippled under the universal powers that be, you know?
Yeah.
I do apologize about that. Then I'm very sorry. I don't mean to upset you, but
Yeah. Our 1-2 hour stream a week that we do, it's so much work. It's
It
not
is.
like we're streaming, regularly throughout the week or anything for longer than that considerably. No.
no. That's
I tried
just...
to eat chicken by hand. It didn't go well. The
Wait.
bit where you hold on to has fallen off.
What do you... Are you eating like a... What? I need context.
I don't think you do.
How could you not... Like... I don't know. Because the only way I could have thought is you're eating it like off a
I
bone.
decided, you know what, hashtag YOLO. I've got McDonald's napkins next to me. You know, you only live once. May as well go for it.
Great branding right there. Nice to get the names out.
Hashtag sponsored.
Hashtag not spawn. We have to be careful about that, don't forget. People get really annoyed. The government get really annoyed if you don't clarify you're sponsored.
Can't wait for a clown to come and bitch slap me. Yeah. I meant Ronald McDonald rather than any politician, just to be clear, but...
Jesus. But yes, no, this week has been... it hasn't been too packed, or like there hasn't been much going on. Yeah, but the stuff that has is definitely going to be interesting to talk about. Most notably, I would say, is the Humble Bundle issue, in my opinion, or that what's happening with Humble Bundle.
No, yeah, issues, right?
Okay, yeah, it's, in my opinion, it's definitely one of those controversial.
Yeah, I've not seen one person like in support of it outside of obviously Humble themselves.
Yeah, which is, always trustworthy. But we've also got what was it? Very minor, but test drive. This reveal trailer teaser, I guess, more than anything, came out.
Yeah.
We got actual confirmed information on the new Battlefield, which is interesting for us fans. And
it's been cancelled.
Yeah, Warzone got nuked. Both senses, to be completely honest. The servers literally killed themselves both days, which was... I don't understand. It feels like it's done on purpose. You would have expected a game so big as Warzone.
Papa Jeff left Overwatch. That was this week, wasn't it?
Oh, yeah. Papa Jeff.
That's interesting.
I briefly saw that, and I was like, wait, did he? And then I just didn't read up on it because I was doing something else. But yeah, that was actually kind of sad, to be completely honest, but I hope it's on good terms.
Well,
it's on good
terms. We can discuss it.
But very unexpected.
Apparently now we can discuss it. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I was just saying that as a summary. We can discuss it now if you want.
Well, I mean, may as well.
Yeah,
I think it's an alright place to...
So, how would I describe it? Jeff's been obviously quite a long-standing meme in the community for a while. Generally, most people consider him a very nice guy. And I think everyone agrees. He's a lovely person. But more recently, the past year and a bit, he's interacted more directly with the community on a one-to-one basis. In that the Overwatch dev team created a Discord where they had numerous pros and streamers in, which the idea was to get feedback on the game and balance changes and to be able to speak more directly with that community, right? So that they could get feedback from in plenty across Twitter, YouTube, the forums, right? Like the everyday audience. And people were streaming the game. Like, what problems do they have actually, like, with streaming it? Were they having issues that this wasn't fun in the sense of, like, being a streamer? And then from the pros in a more, like, very strict, like, we're playing at the top of the game meta sort of sense, right? So it was a good way for them to get, like, feedback from all different facets. And in there, Jeff's always, like, spoken and been quite friendly and stuff. He's very regularly sort of types. He's quite a casual typer, types for all lowercase and stuff. And what was interesting to me is that I don't think anyone was expecting this retirement to come. Like at all. But in the statement that Blizzard put out, you had sort of like the general fluff you expect from the company. Then you had a statement from Aaron Keller, the new lead of Overwatch, who is more than capable. I don't want to diss Aaron in any way. He's been around for years, worked at Blizzard for years, been involved in Overwatch for years. He's been fine. He's absolutely more than capable of taking up that job. But Jeff's statement was like all lowercase. It was written casual Jeff, right? It wasn't like how you would format like a business email or something, right?
Yeah.
Properly written. It was all lowercase, very casually written. And then later he followed it up on Reddit, with a statement where he basically just like went on I think he posted to either Overwatch Reddit or the competitive Overwatch Reddit. I don't remember which one it was actually posted to, but he mentioned both of them and said like, just want to say thanks. You guys have been really inspiring. I respect the criticism, and you've helped me become a better game designer. And then the end it with basically saying, please take care of the Overwatch team. They're wonderful, brilliant people, and I need you right now. Which I think is also a nice sentiment to echo, right? In that, like, look, I might be leaving, but like, please show your support to the actual Overwatch devs. Like, they need to hear the support. It would help them a lot. What's interesting to me is, like, I don't like speculating on situations I know nothing about, right? I think it's generally like bad advice to do.
That is what this entire podcast is about.
Yeah, but like the way the statement sort of came out of nowhere, the way his thing was like for context, Jeff types very casually, right? That's just a part of Jeff, and he always refers to himself as Jeffrey as well, which is very cute.
I hate him already.
Whatever it is, this could be completely unrelated, whatever, if not that Jeff would be listening, but if he ever was, right? Like, whatever. Don't mean to get into your personal life, just hope things are chill. But it was the fact that normally in previous press statements, despite Jeff typing casually, he's formatted those press statements, or when they've been pushed by Blizzard, maybe Blizzard forced it on him, I don't know exactly, right? They were formatted in a much more professional sense, more well written, more the capitals and punctuation and stuff. Well, this one wasn't. It was like, I'm retiring, I'm going to step down from my position, have fun, thanks for the time, enjoy, blah, blah, blah. Like, it was very casually written, which kind of makes me feel like this was unexpected, in that he wasn't necessarily planning to retire. Maybe something came up health-wise or situation-wise, and he just wanted to step back, and this felt like the right time for him. Which I think is a shame if that is the case, but I hope all's well if it, I'm just literally pulling that out of my ass. I'm just reading from the way it was written and just looking at the history of how statements have been written by Blizzard in the past. But yeah, I don't know. It was interesting. It's a shame, but it was interesting.
Just to clarify then, I know we might not know for sure, but there was both mention of retiring and being made a better game developer, which could be, how do I put it? It could be picked up as perhaps he's planning to work on something else. Do we know if he is fully retired or?
Again, all rumor, right? He hasn't personally confirmed anything. The statements that he has made is that he's stepping down from the Overwatch team, is retiring from Overwatch and Blizzard entirely. And I think another important thing to point is people know Jeff as game director of Overwatch, right? They know him as Jeff from the Overwatch team. Jeff is vice president of Blizzard Entertainment, or was, sorry, vice president of Blizzard Entertainment. That's a huge position to step down from, right? Like, he had climbed through the ranks of Blizzard's separate to Overwatch, just general, hierarchical structure pretty well. He was not a small person in Blizzard, the whole company. Even though literally 99% of the stuff he did was related to Overwatch, he didn't have a particularly high influence in the managerial position, from what I understand. I don't think it was something he was personally that interested in, being a sort of game designer very much at heart. But yeah, the rumors are that it's possible he's going to move to the MMORPG that Riot has been long speaking that they're developing out of. Riot have been pushing for a while. For those that don't know, they're developing a series of games under different genres. The most recent release of one was Valorant, but they are still developing many other games. I believe they're meant to be developing a full MMO. They're developing a couple other types of things. So it's expected that Jeff, because obviously he spent years before Overwatch on the WoW team, is possibly going over to Riot's MMO. If that would seem like a very logical career path for him to take. And I could totally see after working on Overwatch for years, and Overwatch is at the point now where, as far as we can tell, story is finalized for Overwatch 2, at least what they're currently planning to implement, writing-wise, right? It's just finishing off the dev work, finishing off the game, polishing it up, doing whatever else they feel that they need to, right? So from a game direction perspective, existing game directors and game designers on the Overwatch team more than capable. Jeff doesn't feel like I wouldn't feel like Jeff. Sorry, I wouldn't feel that Jeff would feel there's a need for him to be there necessarily, right? Like, I think he would feel pretty comfortable stepping back and knowing that things would be handled well. So yeah, I feel like if you want like a creative challenge or want to change up what you're working on because you've been working on the same thing for years, yeah, going to Riot would make sense. It's probably a pretty prosperous interest for Riot to get him on the team. I would imagine that there would be good offerings there financially and all that sort of stuff. But at the same time, knowing Jeff and knowing that, he was vice president at Blizzard, probably doesn't need to be looking for a job, so to speak, right? Like, I wouldn't imagine he's in an immediate need in the way that, maybe the 50% of Activision Blizzard esports that were fired for no apparent reason, despite them making record profits, might. So please, Riot, if you're looking for esports jobs, there some great hires there.
You need a casting guy.
Maybe he's following the rest of them.
Except Riot's already hired him, so...
If you need a caster, I know the person.
Is it me?
I don't do casting.
He does.
You're not me.
They do.
I do.
Both of them.
I don't do casting.
Both of them can.
I'm more capable of analysis right now than I am casting. I don't have enough experience casting.
If you need a professional analyst, I know.
If you think I can't scream about Tracer jumping forward 3 feet, you're so wrong.
Yeah, but you need to know.
I almost recorded a whole set of voice lines. Don't even start me.
Wait, what? I need to know about these.
Do you not remember the whole Tracer saga?
No.
Oh yeah, I was going to record all of the voice lines for Tracer, so we could have that in game.
I beg, can you do that? I beg, like, it will be actually perfect, and then we'll all have to play Overwatch again. Not just playing Overwatch with you three would be just banter.
I think Overwatch is a great game. Like, it gets a... Jeff actually... I didn't want to mention this because I guess it doesn't make sense if you don't know the Overwatch, like, lore. If you're not, like, a huge fan of, like, Overwatch just as a franchise, I guess. But Jeff mentioned in his post to the Reddit that the way he's imagined it is r/Overwatch is Timmy, which is the little punch kid, famously, from the original Overwatch trailer, right? The little younger one. Who's like really bright-eyed and optimistic, and competitive Overwatch is Brian, who's like the older sort of jaded brother that's like, yeah, Overwatch they were disbanded, they're not worth it, but then actually realizes no, Overwatch are cool and awesome, and that's kind of how he like treated them both, and I thought that was quite a cute thing, because I think this happens in any game. This is absolutely not like relating to Overwatch in general. This applies to CS:GO, to Warzone, to literally any game that had ever existed and had like more than 2 people play it, right? People that play in competitive games and play competitively get jaded at things like balance, and they get annoyed when devs make certain decisions, and they feel quite frustrated about things and stuff because they're thinking from a very competitive perspective, and taking even the slightest bit of someone's edge away in a competitive scenario can feel quite demeaning in a sense, right? And people end up arguing, getting heated about this stuff. Then, like, the casual audience of Overwatch probably doesn't give less of a shit whether Orissa's pull cooldown is 7 or 8 seconds. Like, no one's going to remotely care or even notice, right? They just want to play the fucking tank-like fucking robot. They want to put down a fucking shield, put down a bongo, and hold left click.
It doesn't matter.
Right? Like, they love it. And I feel like a lot of people forget that with video games, is that the casual audience just don't care about balance. And, like, Overwatch still has a huge casual audience, like, especially on console. It has a very large player base, right? You can still consistently get quick play games.
Like, for some reason, it's always just been like...
It's got
a huge console base.
Technically CSGO's on console, but just...
And like, I feel like a lot of people always forget that with games, right? Like CSGO is another example of a game that, like, people talk all the time about, like, comp, and it can be talked about in many ways. People can be like, comp isn't balanced, comp isn't fair. Like, I have many criticisms of the competitive integrity and rule set that CSGO uses. I don't think it's a competitively integral game for numerous reasons I won't even get into. right? But the last time I played CS:GO
Oh.
Comp, it was full of hackers. Like literally
need to
every
stretch
game
this
I
out to
played
2
had
hours, so.
hackers, right? And I was
Mhm.
like, okay, so I can complain about the hackers in CS:GO Comp, for example. But what people have
Yeah.
got to realize is that modern day CS:GO, the biggest audience for CS:GO is casual. Even if they're playing the competitive mode, they're still a casual audience. Because I don't think anyone can like seriously take CS:GO as a competitive integral game with the amount of hacking it has at like the middle to low ranks. The map system, it doesn't make sense. Like you can't take their game like 100%. I am being esports level serious now about like it's not. People just want to go in and shoot things, and people play comp if they want a slightly more structured team than you would get in casual. Like that's all it comes down to at the end of the day.
If you want to play Counter-Strike properly competitive,
No, if you're gonna say what I think you're gonna say, and it begins
Um,
with V, no, that's a different topic. Or it's a different part of the discussion. Okay.
no. If you want to play Counter-Strike genuinely, like seriously, you would go on Face It, or if you want to pay
Oh, okay.
ESL.
Yeah.
Like that's like where people take it seriously because, well, ESL, you're paying money, and in a lot of cases, you're trying to win money in tournaments.
Like that time we tried to win money on Face It.
Yeah, I personally do agree that I feel
Look at
like
that face.
a good thing for a competitive game is to encourage and actively support an open esports scene for your game, right?
Yeah.
Where esports in this is meaning like structured competitive tournaments. So like Face It for CS:GO, right? Like kind of open division for Overwatch, but tier 2 support in Overwatch is something. So like I think that's always a healthy thing, and I think it should be encouraged at all ranks, right? I feel like literal silvers in CS:GO should be encouraged to play silver v silver matches in Face It tournaments if they want, and that should be a courage and support thing by the community and game devs. And I think the same in Overwatch. Bronze players should be able to go and play in tournaments if they want. Like if a bronze player is sat there like, I know I'm bronze, I know that technically means that I'm the lowest rank in Overwatch, but I want to play in a competitive environment with teammates and against teammates of equivalent skill to me, and I want to make it structured with a proper rule set and do like a 5-map set. Like they should totally be able to do that.
Yeah.
Like that should just be a thing. And I think it's a really encouraging and healthy thing to do. But not enough games do that, sadly.
It would be nice, actually. Yeah, I haven't. I can't remember how Face It does it. I know ESL does it a different way, but it would be nice if they did tournaments for the lower skilled players who aren't willing to put 50 hours in a week.
Yes, I feel like a lot of the problem can be that those sort of services often run like tournaments where it's like not anyone can enter necessarily. I mean, sometimes they do literally run tournaments that anyone can enter, but you end up in the situation where like a load of teams enter. There's some lower skill teams. Maybe they have a couple game run at the start of the tournament, but then they get knocked out immediately once they come up a slightly higher skill rating team than them, right? I think that sucks because like people are very critical of different players and their ranks in video games, right? But like a lot of the reason people say bronze in Overwatch is numerous reasons, whether it's they're on a bad PC, whether they have some sort of disability, whether they're playing in a really bad situation, they've got terrible internet. Like it can be a numerous number of reasons, right? And if you're one of those players, would it not be interesting to you to be able to, like, if you are a competitively minded person, to be able to take that situation you're in, get a bunch of other people in the same rank and skill as you and a capability, and just play a game competitively? I don't see like why anyone should be like excluded from that situation. I think it's unfair to expect people that are bronze in Overwatch to enter an open tournament that they're going to be competing against Overwatch League pros. Like it's absurd, right? Like, and that happens in some Overwatch tournaments, right? There are big open Overwatch tournaments where theoretically every team, you get seeded randomly, and you end up going against like two teams that are just complete joke teams, and they're like literally just called like we're gonna all play Torbjorn or something because it's a fucking tournament where there's no hero limit, so everyone's just playing Torbjorn, and you somehow win against them or whatever the situation may be, and you get on a run, and then you go up against like a fucking plat or diamond team, and you just get fucked because you're just playing against people that are like 3 or 4 ranks higher than you, and that's not very fair because that's obviously a skill gap. Like, I feel like there should be definitely more done to encourage that people of this skill can play against other people of skills in like a tournament setting. I think it's a really fun way to play video games in tournaments.
Yeah, 100% agree on that. I'd say, like, I'd say one that does it kind of well, obviously it's in game, would be Rocket League. Do tournaments from, as far as I'm aware, bronze upwards. Like if you're playing at a bronze rank, you'll go into a bronze tournament. If you're playing a platinum rank, you'll go into a platinum tournament. So the tournaments are always, matched to your level or your group's level, depending on if you're playing with friends who are higher or lower ranks. I think that's a nice way of doing it. Obviously, isn't if Faceit was to support that a bit more, or ESL again, I haven't used one for a good year or so. I don't know what they are doing at the moment, or if they've updated it in a way that you can. But from what I remember, Faceit was just open tournaments. Anybody at any rank can play. I don't know if you paid for the premium, you would be able to get into ranked matches that like determine everybody's rank to make it fair. I don't know. Looked into it. I didn't want to spend the money on it at the time. Probably still wouldn't, to be honest. So yeah, I like that idea.
I can't comment for CS and that, obviously. Just in that sort of thing, I highly recommend checking out Jane. Jane's ex-coach, now a streamer for the Envy organization. They own Dallas Fuel and whatever the other one is for CDL. Dallas Fuel's an Overwatch League team. Jane's an absolutely lovely chap. Does streams, does YouTube content, does coaching. He does streams where he'll get people in and coach them from all ranks, from bronze all the way up to GM top 500. He does open like pugs where he'll get like a couple bronze teams against each other. He'll do like bronze team versus a singular grandmaster. Like he does like loads of like funny things like that. Very active, very friendly, very open to just positive competition, right? Like we're not here to just shit on people. We're here to like have fun, and has a very, very, very much works to culture a very positive and encouraging environment for like everyone involved. And highly, highly recommend Janie. He's a really awesome guy.
They do sound pretty epic.
Yeah, they are. Cool.
Are they a charitable person?
Yeah, I would say so. Jane's historically, I know where the segue's going. Don't worry. Jane historically is done a lot of work. He's an interesting person. I can't remember exactly what his job was before he became an esports coach, but it was something like a personal coach for people, right?
Oh, wow.
Where he would sort of do like not therapies. Therapy's not the right word, but people would come to him with like, I'm having a problem in my life, and he would help coach them through that sort of situation and sort of recommend like life choices and stuff. And he took that into esports coaching and first sort of got put into like a more like strategic coach role in like what comp should we play, what heroes should we play, and then obviously became more of a player coach sort of down the line of like, I'm helping these players like with their own lives and organizing themselves to be better as a competitive person. And then he eventually stepped down from coaching in those teams because he wanted to do more community work with his stream, and that's where he's been doing since, still supported by Envy, the organization. And Envy actually recently came out with a charity. They're actually starting a charity that is based on basically sort of distributing esports resources and equipment, and helping teach schools in America about esports and how it can be a really good way to sort of help people develop mentally at a young age, right? Like get them competitively and help them develop a very like fair, friendly spirit in that sort of environment. So yeah, I would say Jane is a very charitable person.
That is really, really nice because I genuinely know a few people that would need him. I'm not allowing this segue to work. I'm checking.
Alright, you want to not allow it to work? Let's talk about the clothes behind you quickly. I'm sorry, I've just realised and it's distracting me. What are they doing? Have you like changed your curtains out?
No. So I've done all my
washing. Please don't tell me they're drying.
I've done all my washing today. That's all the
stuff.
That's
my question.
That's that bag. There's all the clothes I've just had tumble dried. But we can't tumble dry, jeans.
So
or
you're
heavy
air
stuff.
drying clothes in your room?
Yes, because I normally go over the banister out in the hallway. Yes. But currently my blanket's out there and it takes up the whole banister. And there's no room on the horses downstairs, so.
Oh, okay. It just seems like an odd idea to do it in room, but maybe that's just me.
That's the last place I would have wanted to put them. I would have put them on a drying horse if I could have, but there was no room for them, so.
Do you want to hear something privileged?
You have your own drying horse.
No, we have a whole room for drying horses. It serves one purpose, and it's storage and drying horses, or clothes horses, whatever you want to call them.
We've got one on the landing, and it's in front of our wardrobes. So you need to like lean it against a wall if you want to get to the wardrobes.
We've got like 6 in a room.
We've got 2 downstairs in
How much
parents'
laundry
office.
do you have?
No, it's not normally all in use, not at all. It's just that they're just
Why
there.
do you have that many?
I just collected them over years.
Did I speak
That's
about
like saying we have 6 cars parked out front.
did I speak about this on the podcast? I can't remember, but I remember asking you guys if we ever lived in a house, what would the rules be on cleaning?
Yeah, just
Especially
don't put it in
washing.
my room.
You're still the person that offered to pay my rent if I cleaned for you.
I know.
So I'm still holding you to that.
No, I agree with that. I just don't ever. I remember.
You should not agree with that.
Because I remember me saying I'll do someone's cleaning or washing if they pay a bit of my rent, and I want to say that was you, but I can't remember.
I think that was said as well multiple times. But,
yeah. Well, you know, we're all paying for each other in a house.
At this point,
It's only like £25 a week or something like that.
Yeah, sure.
I wish. Where's that place? We'll move in right now.
Oh yeah,
just
the
down the
housing
road.
market, guys.
Oh, it's a wonderful place, you know, housing
It would be a big change for us, though. Similar to the big changes that a certain website is making to their
You know what?
policy.
It would be
Thank
a
you,
big
Phelan.
change. You know, I would love to live in LJ. Yeah, no. So you two are the first ones to find out about this. I actually came across it
First ever.
No, you. I
We did the
didn't
press release.
I didn't come across this until like 2 hours after it happened. So I was
don't know how
completely
far after it
unaware
was.
when you guys were talking about it. But you know what? I'm just gonna let you describe it because you can do a lot better than I
Okay.
could.
I'll take this one. Fuck you. So starting in May, can't remember if they gave a date or if
Was
it's
it
just
2nd?
May. Maybe it'll probably be towards the start.
Okay.
Humble Bundle are changing the way that their payment options work. So it used to be it would provide you with 3 sliders for most purchases. There were some that were set, but most purchases you could choose how much went to Humble, how much went to the publisher, and how much went to charity. Now, Humble Bundle's always been about charity. A lot of people, including myself, I don't know about you guys, including myself, will just like put a load into charity, right? Because unless it's a small publisher, they don't need the money. And Humble's also like multi-million corporation, they're fine. They have decided that they're not fine with being multi-million. So by default, it's now going to be 5% goes to charity. There's going to be no slider to change it. And the most you're going to be able to do is press a button, which remains to see how hidden it is. To be fair, it might not be hidden at all, but you know, it also could be hidden. That'll push up to 15%.
Okay. Yeah.
Good dab.
I was reading into it because I kept seeing the number 15%. I couldn't find 5%. So I was like, okay, maybe you just misread it. But no, yeah, it's extra to charity, which ups it to 15%, which is still like, you know, it's better than 5%, but
Does anyone know what Humble's cut is actually going to be in that?
Humble's cut, I assume it'll be you choose between Humble and...
Yeah, do you still get to choose between Humble and the devs?
What I've read, they're just changing the charity one.
But
I mean, okay, so why would you do that?
That's all I've heard. I can't believe that they just
that would
leave
be even
2
worse.
sliders. That there's got to be no sliders. Is
That
going
would
to
be
my
even
guess.
worse, right? Yeah, surely, right? Because otherwise you'd be looking at like a £10 purchase, and you're just fixed to a maximum of 15% going to charity.
Yeah, no. So, from what I'm seeing on here, they all just fit set amounts, and so you can adjust it to do extra to charity, but they'll always try and give the most to the publishers. Looking at this, they'll still take about I'm just looking at the numbers, roughly 10 to 20%, I think, maybe 15% then, looking at those numbers.
Okay.
Because the example they gave was a £25 deal. The default one was 21 to publishers, £1.25 to charity, and £3 to Humble. Sorry, £2.50 to Humble, and then the extra to charity just changed the publishers to 20, charity to £3, and Humble to £1. So I'm guessing it's around the 15% mark.
Absolutely, always press that, but make sure in future, if you're getting a Humble purchase, press that fucking button. I mean, I don't think they're going to go back on the changes at this point. There's been multiple articles. I've not seen a single person in support of it, obviously. But I don't think they're going back on it at this point.
So I from what I'm reading, I'm not seeing too much. Has there been much said on why they're doing this?
It's like greedy bastards, as are the publishers.
Okay, because the only other thing I can think of would be the reason they don't have the sliders is just like maybe a tax reason, or or some law.
It wouldn't be affected because charitable donations aren't taxed. So, like whatever you set the slide to that isn't taxed anyway, it would only be the amount that goes to the devs into Humble that would be. And like I get that that's kind of nonetheless immediately complicated, but that's how they've been working for years, and they seem to be doing fine.
Yeah, literally over a decade at this point. I'm pretty sure.
When I saw a number, it said
founded in 2010, I believe.
Yeah, in the decade they've been up, they've raised 195 million for charity, roughly.
Epic.
Yeah.
So and then like that charity number, like I would assume the majority of users always just leave it default. Like that's what I assume. Or they'll try and make it even. If that's the case, they've probably made an equal or probably double that. I would have thought equal because they when you normally leave it default, it's normally it mostly goes to publishers and then an equal cut charity to them. But by far, they're not like it's not like they're going out of business and they desperately need money.
No, definitely.
Yeah, I mean, also to note that Humble Bundle is not a particularly large company. They have 60 employees, as reported from 2017. I imagine that's grown a little bit, but I doubt it's anywhere near past 100 either. They run their own publishing arm. Like, they're not exactly sort of. I don't think they're doing badly. They're not a big company. I don't think they're in particular need of a large amount of money. And it just seems absurd to me that they would make a decision to take away what, in my opinion, like I'm sorry to say it, Humble, but the only reason I go to your website, which is to give money to charity. Like, you're not a better storefront than any of the other storefronts, right? If I wanted to support, say, a dev a lot, right? Like, say your argument for this is, we want to support the devs more. People often take the sliders down on the devs, and that makes us upset because we want the devs to still get money, right? Like, yeah, awesome. I'll go buy the game from the Epic Games store. Well, there's an 8% less cut than you take.
Or itch.io if it's available there.
Yeah, right? Or it's like a really, really small dev team itch, right?
Yeah.
Like,
well, yeah.
God, I forgot I got those itch games.
I don't see how they can provide this argument that
I don't know
that they're sort of doing this good thing for devs when there's other places I can go to get more money into the hands of devs if I want to, right? Like going directly or going to a better storefront. So the only real benefit to Humble, and the reason I have many times bought stuff from Humble and bought bundles in the past, is because I'm very happy to give money to charity. If I can afford to get money and get some games out of it, that's a win-win for everyone, right? Like I don't think anyone would argue that's not a great thing. Giving money to charity, you get games, cool, awesome, that's fine with me. But now the option I'm being given is give less money to charity, give less money than you would normally to devs, and give more money potentially to us.
So
it's like, well, no. Like, no, I won't do
Absolutely that. Absolutely
not. I'd just like to say I've got confirmed numbers here. These may change. But when you do default donation options, publishers is 85%, then 5% to charity, and 10% cut from Humble. Then if you do extra to charity, it takes that publisher down to 80%, charity's 15%, and Humble take only 5% cut.
Yeah.
So just go charity. I do love how.
I mean, for context, the cut that a publisher gets on Epic Games, for example, is 88%, right? Epic takes a 12% cut, so 88% of the rest of the purchase goes to the publisher. Obviously, on top of that, you've got all of the taxes and stuff as well. Like it's. I think some people misunderstand when they look at storefront cuts that if you're paying for £10, someone is not getting £8.88 from that. No. Yeah. They're getting probably closer to £3 or £4 from it. But especially in the UK, because digital services tax, oh god, the UK is at a point now where because of a combination of taxes, if you're a game developer in the UK, you now officially get just 38% of any purchase or whatever. Just
so
flat.
I'm gonna have to set up offshore from what I'm hearing.
Yeah, Panama's good over here if you want to own ships. I don't know how it is for video games. Yeah, I just when I've given to Humble Bundle, right?
Mm-hmm.
If it's like a bundle that has a bunch of big games in it, let's say for example the current VR bundle, right? There's some smaller games in there that aren't particularly not I don't want to say well known. They're not made by huge companies, and not to say Job Simulator or Borderlands 2 VR are either. right? But those are very big names. Like Borderlands 2 VR, I'm just going to flat say it's made by a big company. But Job Simulator is like a big name VR game that I'm sure is selling well because it's an excellent game. If I was purchasing from that, like I would be inclined to just not give that dev much money. I'd probably still give them more of a cut than Humble. But I would definitely just max the charity slider and then bring it down a touch towards the dev, right? Like that's normally what I would do. If it was like smaller games, like the ones that are at the lower tiers, like yeah, I'd be more inclined to giving them a bit more money.
Yeah.
But it's just like if the option I'm going to be given is just give more money to devs or give more money to charity, and neither of those are through Humble, like yeah, it's just why. I come up with an I fuck it. I'm gonna advertise this idea. Take this idea if you want. I had an idea for a website that sells pirated games. It doesn't sell them, but basically it's just a piracy website for games, right? And it's laid out exactly the same as Humble Bundle. It copies Humble's current bundles, and the way you get access to the downloads or torrents for the games is you have to pay or donate an amount at each tier to charity equivalent to that of Humble Bundle, and that's it. Like it would just be too good. Like someone please do that. It would be so funny.
It would be amazing.
That would be epic. Oh, man.
And if you're going to do that, put games on there from like big AAA publishers, not small indies.
Yeah. Yeah, I still kind like. On one hand, I expected something like this to happen sooner, but then when it didn't, I thought, oh, maybe we're safe. And then out of nowhere, with this, yeah.
I feel like if we were to do that, holy shit, I need to do that. If we were to do this, I think one of the ideal things to do would be just aim to get as many EA games on there as possible.
Yeah,
I think it's important to remember that the difference between morality and legality, right? Now, depending on what country you're in, pirating a game or like pirating a movie might not actually be strictly illegal, but that's complex, and obviously I'm not an expert on law of like any countries other than my own, and the one that I'm like 80% on. But the point I'm getting at is, in my opinion, there are many cases where it is more than morally fine to pirate games. Recent example, Sony is shutting down a bunch of their old stores for the PS3, PS Vita, and PS Portable. Most of those games will be purchasable nowhere ever again. Pirate the fuck out of those games, please. Archive them, put them on storage, get them somewhere, because those games are going to be memories to people. Those games are work that people put in. They should be kept and accessible to all. It's just as simple as that. Right? There's no other industry where just because a company that produced it doesn't want to maintain it anymore, or the publisher doesn't want to maintain this platform anymore, whatever, it suddenly stops. Right? You don't see a fucking insanely revered, like this person's treated as like a god amongst artists, right? Suddenly have their paintings taken down from a museum because the fucking oil paint company that they used went out of business and was like, actually, no, like it doesn't happen. We keep the art because it's art, and games, as far as I'm concerned, in most of the times count as art, right? Like, if Sony wants to shut down the store because it's not viable for them to run the hosting costs, I mean, I'm pretty sure looking at Sony's profits, it's more than viable, but fair enough. Like, they can shut down the PlayStation 3 store. But to then claim that people shouldn't be able to get copies of the PS3 games is just absurd. Like, no, they should absolutely be able to do that. Those pieces of work should be preserved, and that's pretty much where I stand on the issue. I don't feel like it's that complicated for me.
That whole idea is really upsetting because, yeah, as you said, there's so many good games on there. Like, I'm more curious, are they going to do nothing to backlog some of these online-only games, or, like, sorry, PlayStation Store-only games? Because, like I was looking into getting a PS Vita at some point when I have spare money, because I want a portable gaming device. You know, as much as I love the Switch, that was what, you know, kept me going, and was what I used all the time back when I was younger, and I love some of the games on there. But some of the games are PlayStation Store only, so it's like, what are they gonna do? Are they just gonna get rid of all of them and not give two shits?
As far as I'm aware, from what I have read and seen, you will have absolutely zero way to use those games.
Yeah.
Right. If you have a physical game, those still work, I believe. Well, obviously they're not being produced or purchasable anymore. All of that shit. But yeah, like if you have a game that's only available digitally through the store, You just that's it. It's just gone. Unless you pirate it, it's gone forever.
I
And,
did. I
you know,
did
a good
hear...
example of this is looking at like.
Hang on. I was just looking at pictures. I've broken now.
It's like, okay, but you cannot purchase this game anywhere.
Sorry, just a quick clarification. Did anyone else have it? I don't know if that was Discord or if that was just on my end.
Did you just cut off for like 4 seconds?
It was a bit more than
It was like
4 seconds. On my end, I only noticed because at first I just saw your camera froze tactical.
Oh,
and
okay.
then Alfie's voice just went, so I think Discord
was
might
it
have...
on my end or...
No, it was Discord then, because mine did
cool.
the same. Alfie just stopped, and
okay.
I thought it's because I did something, because I said something and like did a weird
No,
face.
that's why your camera was frozen.
Oh,
I didn't realise no one was
ruining the
talking.
podcast.
Oh, yeah. Typical. We'll be
Right,
making our own
I'll repeat
service for
roughly what I was
next
saying.
week. Yeah.
GameCube has a very strong emulation, archival, and piracy scene.
Yep.
And the reason that's such a fucking awesome thing is because those games, pretty much it is borderline impossible to get physical copies of for a lot of them because they are either just so obscure games that they're just gone forever. Hard to find. And the ones that do exist, they're not being produced anymore, so those physical copies can be quite awkward to get your hands on. There's no digital store; it's a GameCube. So if you want to play physically on an actual GameCube device that you still own, one of the easiest way is to flash your own ROMs. And if you don't want to do that and want to use an emulator, like you can't purchase the games or get the games in any legitimate way. And it would just be stupid to just lose all of that work that loads of devs over years, especially a really pivotal point in the gaming industry's history, console-wise, to just say, no, fuck it, actually. Do you know what? Those companies that can't make profits on those things anymore, half of which don't even exist anymore, and Nintendo's not going to make any money off anymore. Actually, we're going to stop you from doing that for no reason other than just not wanting you to be able to preserve the art that people created. It's just stupid.
No, I would agree 100%. It's going to be annoying, I guess. Why would they get rid of such wonderful memories for some people? So hopefully they do get, pirated onto, emulated onto PC, should I say.
Wow, what a nice recovery.
Yeah, I recovered that one perfectly. No, I genuinely thought I annoyed you because you just stopped and I was like, oh, he's doing one of these jokey things again. And then you just came back in full conversation and I was like,
Yeah, obviously on my end I had no idea anything was happening because I was watching the stream on my main monitor, not Discord's window, and I'm speaking and none of you guys are, obviously, so I didn't hear anything happen.
I didn't notice because I'm to be completely honest, I'm also browsing.
We're gonna have to sue
my itch.io bundle that I bought that has 56 pages of games.
I'll start reading up the legal document. I know they won't. I really want itch.io to give me just a download all button.
Oh, it would be wonderful.
I seriously just want to download all of my games.
They were going to do that when they released that bundle.
I think they said they were going to make a way for you to find it more easily, which they did. But even that took them weeks.
And then,
but I can't complain.
Oh, there's such good games on here. I need to download.
Yeah,
it's just a great website.
It is, and there's some perfect games on there.
Now let me download it. I couldn't even find a GitHub page to do. I was really hoping someone had made that. I think the most complicated thing would be telling it to do the Windows download every time.
I need to see if this has got multiplayer, because if it does, we all need to play it.
Oh, this is going to be interesting.
I doubt it does, because obviously, it's. I doubt it, but it looks like it could.
This will be a slightly more controversial take as well. But DRM-free games, right? One of the common you shouldn't have DRM-free because of this reason arguments is that if I purchase a DRM-free game on itch or say Humble or wherever, I could download that and then just give it to my mates and we can all play it. Right?
Yeah.
And I understand where that comes from, but at the same time, when I had games as a child, I could purchase them and give them to a friend and we could play it.
But yeah, no, I love
that was how that worked.
That's what I love. Which I love the developers for It Takes Two and A Way Out. That concept of only one of you has to own the game to be able to play it co-op. I love that idea.
And I really hope that catches on more.
Yeah, and I know it was a while ago, but it reminded me of that whole drama Xbox had when it was the PlayStation and Xbox new consoles coming out with PS4 and Xbox Series X days. Oh, sorry, Xbox One. Where like Xbox were like there was the whole drama of Xbox were gonna have DRM discs basically. You can use it in one console and one console only. At which point, at one of the presentations, Sony just did this little like promotional bit where it was just like, "Guess what we've just got, guys? It turns out if you give your game to someone else, they can also play it. Like,
What?
like
That's madness.
adding DRM to disc games is genuinely one of the worst things anybody could have ever done. That was a big problem with sport, wasn't it, in its early days, if I remember correctly.
I think so, actually. Now that you say that,
Yeah, I think they had DRM issues. Even with the disc version, I think it was like you could only use it on 4 different computers, or something like that, maybe 2. I don't know. I don't remember the numbers, but I knew they had an issue. There's a VR game in here. Anyway.
What, an EH.io bundle?
Yeah, it's a game where you have to go and take out white blood cells.
Interesting.
Blood. Yeah. It's called Blood Blast VR. Blood Blast VR. I need to play this.
I have been tempted.
I would have known about it if I was able to download them all. It's just
is it multiplayer? If it's multiplayer,
I have been tempted at some point to do a stream where I just play through every single game that I have in Humble Bundle or Itch that I'm yet to play.
No, just do all
like
the Itch ones.
Not the key ones on Humble because I have a few, and also with the reason to use Humble, probably less likely. But
I just wanted
I have so many Itch games.
Oh, there's a relaxing ocean effects. That's actually quite nice. Something I just wanted
another
to say.
thing.
Oh, you can.
Sorry, just this will be very short, and I'm sorry. I deeply apologize for interrupting you.
It's fine.
Discord. But with like DRM free and sharing copies of games digitally in the way that historically you could have physically, right? One culture I'd like to see change is this attitude that we have for numerous economic reasons, and I'm not going to get into the politics of economy and all of that, but it's currently considered sort of standard in society that you sort of pay for a thing, right? And then you get the rights to use or own the thing, sometimes without the owning, depending on what store you're purchasing from, and that's a bit iffy with online purchases. I feel like that should change to, I purchased the thing, so I get the DRM-free game from Itch. I have the right to share that with my friends and anyone reasonably.
Yeah.
And the culture should change to accept that people go, oh yeah, my friend just gave me this really cool game. That was really cool. I'm going to donate some money to the devs of that game. That was really nice. And I feel like that should be how stuff works. I think that would be way better if instead of purchasing a game, right? Because like demos don't exist anymore. Well, they do, but not anywhere near like they used to, right? Instead of purchasing a game and having everyone purchase the game, I think it would be way more interesting if people got to try way more games, especially on like the smaller indie scene. In order to explore these games, and then there was a very, very established culture of like, I enjoyed this product, I will donate, right?
Yeah.
And sort of more, I guess more like a pay what you want system. Would very much be how it is, like I think that attitude is something I would like to see a lot more people pick up. In that it's fine, like if I was to release a game, I'd be fine with people to distribute the DRM-free copy between their friends, and I would just ask that if people enjoy the game, throw me a couple of quid, like that's reasonable, I feel.
No, yeah, that's I think is a really nice way of doing it. Both from a user standpoint and from your standpoint. I just wanted to say 2 things. First thing I've just figured out, the first Octodad is in this bundle, which I was completely unaware was a game. I didn't realize Octodad Deadliest Catch was the second in the series.
Fake fan.
I know. I just didn't, because I saw it and I was like, this looks like the most, like, I don't know, it just looks really weird, but it looks fun. I need to play that at some point. Secondly, I just wanted to,
really?
I don't know if I want to say it now because it's off topic, but it's...
I mean, we may as well.
Okay, cool. I just want to briefly bring this up because this was big news early in the week, and that was that the UK football almost fucking killed itself.
Well, it was very far off where
the UK.
This was going.
Oh no, because it was more UK teams than European. I think there's currently 3 European teams in it still, and there was going to be 5 UK teams, but they've all pulled out now. But that almost killed football in the UK scene, like major football. And the fact that it's, that they've all backed out now is a good thing, but still seen as, you did a bad.
My favourite thing about that whole drama on the Super League was, as someone that doesn't follow football and doesn't know how football works, from like I know like the rough rules, I don't know the detailed rules, but I know the rough rules of the actual game itself, but I don't know like the structure of the competitive scene. I couldn't tell you exactly how the relations between, say, like the Premier League and the Champions League. Like I don't know that sort of detail of the competitive scene. It was interesting for me as someone that follows a lot of esports Twitter, because a lot of esports Twitter, the people that did know about football and did know how that scene worked went, "This is terrible," and the people that didn't went, "But so I'm confused. Why is everyone angry here? Because isn't this just like the best teams competing versus each other? Like, isn't that just a good thing? Because you get to see better competition." Like, treating from a very literal perspective, not understanding that it was a very sort of self-interested decision by some very rich teams and organizations to. It wasn't even arguably the best teams, right? It was entirely. Again, I still don't fully understand because I don't understand the exact intricacies of how the competitive team football works. But basically, a bunch of rich people wanted to make themselves richer by stimulating a league that just was only them, so that they could all profit off of it, rather than including everyone into the competition in a sort of fair and structured way.
So to give it more context on what you're saying, one of the big things that got these big teams in it was the amount of money the teams would have received on joining the league was more than they would have winning a Premier League, which is one of the biggest leagues in the UK. So joining the Super League, you would have got more money than winning one of the biggest tournaments in the UK or Europe, but some would say. So that I can understand why they wanted to do it. People do forget that, and this happens a lot in esports as well. It's not under the teams, the managers, or even sometimes the board's decision. It was the owners that wanted to do this.
Yes.
The teams had a lot of the players, or more or less all the players, didn't want this, didn't care, and didn't find out until the day of, to be fairly honest. Same with managers. So, like, the fact that a lot of people got annoyed at the teams was just unfair. I can understand it. Obviously, if you don't have a true understanding of the what's going on behind the scenes, I don't blame you. But
I mean, again, like,
you need to separate that.
It wasn't everyone. Like, don't get me wrong. Not everyone that I see on esports Twitter was tweeting that. The people on esports Twitter that know how football works as a scene anyway. And there were people on esports Twitter that were like responding to these people like, "But isn't this just going to be good because it's going to be more competitive and make it more enjoyable to watch like a more rigorously competitive game?" And some people were like, "But isn't that the Champions League? Isn't that the World Cup? Isn't that the point of like, oh, so you have fucking middle of buttfuck nowhere FC and also the buttfuck nowhere FC, and they compete, and then they have some really good matches, and then slightly more significant place FC notices the player of middle of buttfuck nowhere FC, and eventually you go up the chain all the way until this person's playing for a regional county in a country, and then they're playing for the country's team, and then they're playing in the World Cup. And theoretically, even if it doesn't necessarily always work like this, someone that was good enough at football could climb that path and end up playing at like the top of competition.
Yeah.
Like, so you don't need the Super League. But obviously a lot of this is from people that, like, I couldn't even tell you which leagues are in which order. I'm just guessing based on the names, right? Like, I know loads of people that I saw were guessing based on the names, because I saw some people talking about the Premier League as if it was like the best league in football. And I was like, but isn't the Premier League like a UK thing? Like,
no, the World Cup's the tippy top.
Like, everyone was just confused, basically.
Carry on. So, yeah.
Here we go again.
Oh, God. I was just going to say, like, for people who don't understand why it was such an issue, the two main points, I don't mean this in any offensive way, but a lot of people saw this as it was Americanizing football, it was more or less a quote from one of
which is the worst football.
It was a quote from one of the owners of these teams, who is they're called the Glazer brothers, I think they're called. They own Man United. They just sound like a neighbor who owns a glazing company. But I don't know if it was them or not. But one of these American owners who owns these football teams said that he doesn't understand the whole point of relegation in UK football or European football, which I would say is a huge part of why nobody wanted this. Second was BT, BBC, Sky. None of these, obviously BBC, but none of these wanted to buy a contract with the Super League, so it wouldn't have been shown on most UK TV. So people would have had to pay more money to watch football they
Oh,
probably didn't care
God.
about. So that
Oh,
was
yeah.
that was also another real big argument to what's the point of this.
I think it is a general problem with sports in general, in my opinion, though. Like for me, what I enjoy about watching sports is watching players. Generally, if I'm watching sports, I want to be watching towards the better end, towards the more competitive end, right? Watching skilled players do something that I probably can't do, and stuff. Because I mean, even if you're like literally number one rank in Overwatch, you're not on the level of some of the players in our OWL, right? Like Overwatch League. Don't get me wrong, you're probably on the level of some of them for numerous reasons. But like the absolute top tier best players in Overwatch League are a good bit past the top of the ladder, because there is a huge difference between playing with random teammates and for people that don't know, in Overwatch, once you're at the top of the ranks, you can't queue with some more than one other person. So the maximum you can do is a duo queue. So you can maximum have one other teammate you expected with you on whatever role you expected. And obviously there's a big difference between that type of play on a ladder versus random players versus teams where you're strategizing, where you're VOD reviewing, where you're looking at what the enemy team is doing and what strategies you expect from them, where you're trying to figure out ways you can decompose their strat and where you can figure out what this team's weakness is. Do they have a tank that's prone to overextend? Can you capitalize on that? That sort of level of play that you see in esports in Overwatch at the top is obviously a significant portion above, and that's what is exciting to me from sports, right? So I just wanted to watch competitive Overwatch top level. I could watch plenty of streamers, and those are entertaining as well. There's loads of great streamers in Overwatch. It's just that there's that separation from like the main ladder to esports, where it's that sort of team culture, right? You're now playing a very serious team sport, and your team's working together. You've got strategic coaches that are giving you strats to do. You're figuring out ways to win these engagements versus other teams, and how you can, even if you're technically mechanically your McCree player is worse at aim, your Diva player is got worse reaction times, right? Like, even if you analyze that you technically have these mechanical differences, it's about that strategy and how you can give yourself the one up to win. And I think that applies to all sports, right? Like at the top tier of sports, if you're, I can't comment directly on football, but I would imagine that in the top tier of football, right? If you're on Man United and you're playing in the World Cup, you're probably going to have someone in your team's organization that's going to be looking at how maybe you're first playing against I don't know, name another football club, Chelsea, because I'm thinking of football clubs and that's the only two I can think of. Yes.
Oh, he's a fan. He's a fan.
Yeah, I'm a fan.
They're a fan.
Right? You're going against Chelsea, and you know that they specifically commonly field this player in this position. What can you do about that? How does this player? What sort of mistakes does this player make most commonly? Right? What ways could you maybe try and psych this player out, or whatever? Like in a physical sport, it's kind of different to video games, because just put simply, video games are more complicated than physical sports. That doesn't mean they're better necessarily. They just have more complex facets to the ways that they can be played, because you can, use 3D space more, right? People can't fly in fucking football, at least last time I checked.
They can't.
So there's obviously that separation. That's still the thing. So it happens a lot to me in esports when I see it annoys me a lot in esports and normal sports in general, when I see these team owners separate to the actual organization that's running the team make these decisions that are very abstracted and separated from an understanding of the industry itself. A good example of that in Overwatch League recently being the LA Valiant, who had a team of fan favorite players, had some relatively good players, and their team was owned by a separate team to the people that managed them. I think the team was actually at that point owned by the people that were managing them, but that sort of was a separate department. Basically, it wasn't like the team owners weren't the managers; it was just owned by the same company, strictly speaking, right? Okay. And separate to the managers knowing, separate to the players knowing, separate to the social media managers, all the staff knowing, this organization that owned them, this team owner, wanted to sell the team eventually. But they couldn't just sell the team right now. So what they did was sort of go with this middle ground where they obviously were interested in, basically they want to leave the esports scene. It's become very clear now that they're not interested. They've got other financial interests. They're running like a gaming website and service in Brazil or something. So that's what their main business interest is now. They want to pull out of esports. So what they did was they sold off the managerial position to another company in China and kicked all of the staff out of the team. Every single one. Every player, every manager, the coaches, they all got booted. and just kicked out and with literally zero warning. And then the team just went, we're moving to China, and now the Chinese managers are like running it temporarily. And it's expected that at some point they will probably sell the team to someone else, like the whole franchise, because obviously it's franchise, right? So they'll sell the franchise that they own, someone else completely, and they'll fully exit the esports scene. And this sucked for everyone involved because there was no warning. They technically took advantage of rules in the new contracts that have been in place for COVID, and that people need to be able to sign people very quickly, and all of that. It was quite a messy situation. And what this team ended up doing under this new managerial sort of role is basically picking up a bunch of not that good players that they could just get on for cheap and not pay much money, who were just happy to receiving a salary. Even if the salary is very low, probably minimum contract requirements in our OWL. And I think just shit like that sucks, because it's just a team decision that's clearly, like, fair enough, that team as a business wants out, right? Like, whether you agree with their decision or not, they want out of esports. But with, like, some structure that could have been handled so much better in, like, handing the team franchise off to a different owner that was interested in continuing esports, right?
Yeah.
Like, to just fuck over players that are expecting to be employed for a year under a salary, and the staff and the coaches, just with literally zero warning, and to just move to China. And it was all happened in, like, a 3-day period. It's shit. And when shit like that happens, like, I think it does show a problem in all sports of the people that own teams versus the actual managers having a sort of separation of interests. In that, if there had just been better communication and better organization, then that could have been handled so much better. Still allowing the business to pull out from esports if that's what they want to do.
Yeah.
No, yeah, I
think
completely agree. I think you hit it nail on the head.
God damn it! I was gonna say that. You're not allowed to take what I'm gonna say word for word. You saw it. Oh.
Welcome.
I don't eat chicken wings now, so I talk less.
I see.
Oh yeah, that's I see how it is.
Oh
dear, oh dear.
I just want to say.
Oh yeah.
I know itch.io you're not watching, but please, in the bundle, let me sort by multiplayer games only.
I was thinking that earlier because I found one that was multiplayer up to 4 players, and then I found you couldn't sort by multiplayer one, so we're gonna have to go through and find some.
Yeah, there are some really good
absolutely
games on
something
here.
we're gonna have to do.
Like, I streamed Overland. Overland is a great game. I highly recommend it.
I can't remember which one that was, to be honest.
Sky Rogue is also a great game.
Yep, Sky Rogue is.
Oh, I missed that. What was the multiplayer game you saw, can I ask?
I think it was like No Breaks Valet or something like that.
Oh, that sounds like fun.
I'm interested into how it's going to work multiplayer, but there's just so many games here.
Oh, this looks like a fun treasure hunt game. Let's see if it's got multiplayer. Anyway, you were saying?
Oh man, I was saying something like I came into this podcast as always, like expecting to do certain topics, but then I like always get myself sidetracked. Like when you were talking about like was it the PlayStation Vita? You said you were thinking of getting.
Yeah,
was it the Vita or the portable?
The PlayStation Vita.
Oh, okay.
Which, if you didn't know, is
even he doesn't know.
Life in Latin.
But
I remember that.
Thanks for clarifying.
It was a waste of a GCSE, wasn't it?
Hey, I don't see your E coming into much use. Would you get D? I forget.
Who, me?
D.
Oh.
Right then.
But it got me thinking, like, sure, the PSP, like, at the time, and by modern standards, like, its resolution wasn't anything impressive. But I wonder, like, how, because all the AMD APU tests I see are done at, like, 1080 and 720p. If you were to do it by, like, older sort of resolution standard, so perhaps like 480, perhaps a bit higher, because 480. I wonder like how viable it would be at that point. And depending on how you did it, you would have upgrade routes for the future as well, for when they released better APUs. Obviously, in the first place, you'd have to buy a 1080p screen, because otherwise you'd be rebuying that as well. But it's really it's a topic that I've not really cared about for years. Like I had the Game Boy Advance SP, then I had the Nintendo DS or a couple because I broke them, then the Nintendo DSi, and for me like that was all I had. Oh, and I got that PSP off Free Cycle. But other than that,
the PSP was underrated.
The Switch and things like that, I just like I didn't really care for when they came out. Things like the Wii U, which I suppose you could argue wasn't technically a portable, depending on
Did anybody buy the Wii U?
Yeah. Not as much as Nintendo hoped, obviously. And also, I do have problems with not just Nintendo as a company, but like the way the Switch is laid out. Yeah, it's a good bit. It's not a great bit of tech. It might have been when it came out, but now I'd say it's a good bit of tech. I don't like the pricing on it. Is the main thing. I don't like the price of the console. I don't like the price of the games. The limitations.
One thing that Nintendo do is sort of regulate a very strict ecosystem around their own consoles, and I think it's quite malicious in places.
I think it's unfair of me to say like limitations when it comes to what you can do, because on that console, like as far as I'm aware, there is an inbuilt web browser, and I'm being unfair, and I am comparing it to a desktop. Like when I think about it, but it's a subject that's started interesting me more and more. Actually, is handheld PCs, especially running possibly scaled down, but a Windows environment or Linux if you're a madman who can type like 1,000 things a second and none of them make any sense.
I'm not necessarily saying it's viable like now, especially if you're not willing to like, if you're not someone that's comfortable running a Linux OS. But the advancements that are being made with like Proton, for example, that allows you to run like Windows binary games on on Linux, sorry, with like basically no issue, like that continues development. Like you get some more usability, and they're like, I can absolutely see that you can get a really low level system that's quite low overhead on like a handheld console or PC. Sorry, you know what I mean?
It ties back into what I was saying in another Discord. Like tech-wise, the next generation, like ignoring all the stock issues, I have problems with reviewers using like current prices compared to actual price. It's a whole other thing. But the next gen of tech, like I'm excited for APUs because I think we're getting close to that 1080p 60 FPS barrier with them, which will be a massive step. GPUs will hopefully be going over to multi-chip modules, which in theory should make them cheaper because better yields from like the actual silicon used in them. And I forgot what the other thing was. What was the other thing? Oh, and the other thing wasn't quite as exciting. It was just AMD CPUs because they're going to be going over to the AM5 socket and support for DDR5. Like, not that we'll have DDR5 for a long time, especially at an affordable price for consumer use. Yeah. But it's going to be an exciting generation. Like, this one was all right, but it wasn't that big to me.
This like what I'm going to call like the past few years of CPU advancement has been good. Overall tech advancement, I would agree it's been pretty lackluster. But I do agree that I think going into it, I think we're at the point now where we're starting to get like to the point where I feel like we could comfortably say like you say, right, like you like the Switch, don't necessarily think it's great hardware now. Like I feel like with the sort of work that Nintendo can do and the industry friends they have, like I think Nintendo can release a more date-to-date Switch with better hardware that would be pretty goddamn appealing. Like it still has all the problems from like their Nintendo's attitude to pricing games and all of that side of things. If that's a problem for you, but from a hardware perspective alone, just looking at the actual console itself, like I think Nintendo can release a Switch that could be pretty impressive. Like with what we can do now. I definitely agree that AMD CPUs just in general are like the only CPUs that excite me. Because like people have been talking about like Intel possibly having like a bit of a comeback. They've got new management. Intel is looking up, so to speak. I don't disagree with that. But the problem I have with Intel is that unless like this manager is going to make I can't remember her name. I do apologize. But is going to make some drastic decisions that are going to massively impact their entire backlog of every single CPU they've released in like the past like 20 years, which would be stop software locking off features that your CPUs are capable of doing so that you can be feature compliant with AMD on the low end, which I just don't see them doing. I don't think I can personally buy because of the absolutely, I 100% agree, not standard consumer things I like to do with my computers, being refused the option for, say, ECC memory is just absurd to me, because I want to be able to run ECC memory on my consumer CPU. I don't want to have to buy some stupid extra cost that's completely artificial because the CPU is capable of it, or go to an entirely separate line of CPUs, which is what the answer of Intel. When I could just buy an AMD CPU on the fucking low end that would just do that with no issue, because of course it can. And it's that attitude that AMD has displayed that has been the biggest thing that makes me like not AMD fanboy. I think they both have selling points in different areas, but more respected. Like respect AMD more as a company from those decisions because they're not locking off things that their CPU are capable of doing. They're not like recommending that you use ECC RAM with Ryzen, right? Like they're saying like if you want ECC RAM, you should probably be using like Threadripper or Epic, right? Like we think that this is what you should be doing. You're probably looking for this workload. These CPUs are more optimized for that and will be better for it. But you can still do it. And I think that is exactly how it should be. Like,
I think
locking features away for no reason is just one of the worst things that the like PC component industry has been doing for a while now.
The other thing with like Intel's new management, like sure it's great that they've got a new manager who in theory like should know what's going on a bit more because they've had a bit more experience like on the engineering side of things as far as I understand. Especially hardware-wise, it's still going to take years to see their influence come through because they can't just scrap these next couple of gens of CPUs, which are finally starting to move down to smaller nanometer nodes. Which
also, this is a much more speculative take on Intel, and it's a bit more of a market analysis
hot take here we go.
type thing. It is a bit of a hot take, right? But semiconductor fabrication as an industry has been in a very weird point recently because for numerous reasons we very, very quickly slammed into capacity internationally on how much semiconductors we could produce. This hit all PC components, it hit a lot of technologies, it hit car manufacturing, it hit pretty much anything that has any involvement with semiconductors. And it's interesting to me because Intel, I can't remember exactly what it was they specifically announced, but Intel has fabbed their own chips for a while now. They don't do it entirely for everything they produce, I believe, but for a lot of it they do. But the main other standard fab companies that you would expect to go to would be TSMC and Samsung, both of which are used somewhat by pretty much everyone, basically. And NVIDIA do a bit as well, and I believe are also kind of moving to doing more. But I think Intel announced like 2 huge new fabrication sites in Nevada or Arizona, alongside other existing fabs. Like it's an area where they sort of commonly do fabs, and they're planning to sell the fabrication capacity they have in the way that TSMC or Samsung would, right? And that you can buy up silicon for yourself.
Yeah.
Now, that, from everything that I can tell, and again, I'm not an expert, I'm not one of the billionaires that owns one of these companies buying fabrication capacity.
Is what you would want us to believe, yes.
Yeah. But from what I can tell, this is a very, what I'm going to colloquially call dick move, in that pretty much these other fabrication companies have all been sort of under the impression that everyone would just buy from them, and it's been sort of this like okay, that's maybe the wrong way of putting it, but like that's kind of been a culture that has existed, right? And from what I can understand, everyone's kind of pissed at Intel, and it's gave them a very bad rep that they've decided to make this decision among fabrication specifically. And Intel's obviously been like, there's been like the meme about what fucking nanometer Intel's CPUs are on, and I didn't even need to get into it because it's fucking, God, it's just, honestly, it's just annoying. Like, because it just doesn't matter that much.
It does, though.
And all of that stuff. But it seems to me that like if Intel does go into fabrication and tries to sell this capacity, I would imagine that like, I don't mean to break it to you, right? But Intel, you're a big company. You do a lot of stuff from like management of IT services to like CPU manufacturing to silicon, semiconductor fabrication, right? And then you're looking at like TSMC as a company, and they literally serve pretty much one purpose. They do some other stuff, but they pretty much serve one purpose, which is making semiconductors in their foundries, right? And I'm like, if you're TSMC right now, and you're looking at Intel's move, TSMC is already investing billions into adding fabrication capacity because we hit capacity internationally and we need more fab capacity. Like, you're just going to outcompete Intel, like, just easily. Your costs are going to be less. Your products are going to be higher quality. You've been doing it the proper scale of our company serves the purpose of internationally having the supply chain and producing semiconductors in a way that, well, Intel has been doing this for years on a smaller scale for itself and maybe a couple extra industry friends, right? Like, it's not going to work. As far as I'm aware as well, like for context, Intel produces some fabs and also buys some fabs, I believe mostly from TSMC. I believe in the agreement, or in the statement they put out about this fabrication investments, once the plant's, I think they're planning to stop ever buying from TSMC. So that's going to be quite, like that's part of why it's been like considered a bit of a dick move. So because obviously they're very much trying to become a competitor. It just seems like something that's going to piss all these other companies off. Doesn't seem like it's going to work, because I'm sorry, but just like TSMC and Samsung are like just so like the winners in this industry as it is, right? Like,
yeah,
everyone's been using them for years. Everyone, I expect, will continue to use them for years. Like it just seems like a weird decision from Intel that's going to make them less popular from an industry standpoint. And I feel like Intel's kind of just in this really awkward position where their CPUs have been okay. They've not had great advancements between generations. They've not even really had generations for quite some time.
No.
To speak, in like they brand them as generations, but not really generations, so to speak. AMD, on the other hand, has definitely had generations recently. Like in terms of recently, as in like the scale of Intel. It's not like they're doing like year on year or more than a year generations that like we've seen in the past CPU wise, but they're definitely advancing at a faster rate generation wise. They're a nicer company in terms of their attitude towards features and what they offer on their CPUs. In my opinion, depending on what you're looking for, they're the better option price-wise. I just don't see that Intel's going to actually be that successful, like down the line, unless they make some like hugely serious changes. I think they rely very much on like from like the gaming and consumer perspective, just the recognition of their brand. Right, like there is obviously a huge amount that like people watching computers become like an everyday household item, knowing like Intel, you see Intel on the adverts, you see Intel stickers on PCs. Like that brand name is like the one that like the boomers will know, right? Like they will probably recognize when you say Intel, in the way that a lot of boomers that didn't own like early computers probably wouldn't be able to recognize different CPU manufacturers, right? They're not going to recognize PowerPC. They're not going to recognize AMD nowadays, right? Like they're just not. Like Intel just is that name. People know that. People don't even recognize Nvidia, right? That are boomers, because people don't care about anything other than the CPU, because fuck it, apparently. And I feel like as that dies down, as like that generation of people dies off, and you get to more like the younger generation, but my attitude to Intel is, as evidenced by the previous rant, not that positive. Like, why would I ever buy Intel? Like, they're just a terrible choice.
Yeah.
Just fuck Intel, basically. I hope they improve, but I don't expect them to, and I don't have much expectation that I'll ever be pushing Intel again. Like, literally. That's how bad it's got. I mean, my current CPU has been like the worst purchase I've ever made.
Everybody I know who has a CPU complains, and that's because they're all content creators.
I mean, like, my CPU was bought a long time ago, and it's old, and a 4-core CPU for the price I paid for it is well below what the current standard is for CPUs, yada, yada, yada. It's an old CPU, I get it. But, God, it sucks. It was such a bad decision. I should have just waited for years and then bought a better CPU.
You didn't know. Okay?
If I know what AMD were going to do, even with the first fucking release of Ryzen, I would have been so much better off.
Yeah, well, what are you going to do? Well, we know what you're going to do, you just said. But
yeah,
so,
buy an AMD Threadripper.
I'm glad. I would love it.
Yeah.
No, I'm joking. I'm glad you had that wonderful rant, because I managed to find all the multiplayer games that we could play from this XIO bundle.
Wait, what? How?
It's a disappointing. Okay, it might not be all of them. But someone had curated a list. I don't know if it was all of them. It didn't look like it was, but someone curated a list of as many of these games in this bundle in a Excel spreadsheet. And listing if they had multiplayer and what sort of multiplayer. I went through and got all the ones with server-side multiplayer or AHOC, I think it was said multiplayer, which I assume just meant hosted multiplayer. And I found 13. So, some of them look quite fun, some of them look quite interesting, some of them definitely different. Like there's one here called Airship, which I hope is still available, but it just looks like Terraria, but with airships, is the best way I can put it.
Okay.
It looks fun. Definitely something we could try out, I guess. Then there's what looks to be a planetary annihilation sort of game.
Oh God!
It looks cute as
no.
fuck, man.
No, no.
It's an arena bot. Wait, what's it? What is it?
Is it going to be better balanced than Planetary Annihilation though?
What is its tags? Mechs, multiplayer, online, program, and PvP robots, single player, tactical. It's a strategy game.
It's you.
So it looks quite cool. It was one of those ones I wanted to play originally. Then there's Oh No Bugs, which just looks like fun. Neon Valley Revenge, which is a neon shooter. That's what I say. Then there's Doomstar. Lose. I can't say that first one, but I assume that's the developer. Give me a moment. No, it's not. Okay, well, it's called Doomsday. It looks...
I've already found many items, like many pages, sorry, of supposedly multiplayer games. I don't know to what extent.
Okay, yeah, a lot of them are local multiplayer because there's a lot of card games in this bundle and board games. Actually, talking about board games, there's one called Attrition Tactical Frontlines, which is a board game multiplayer hosted, like server hosted game. Looks quite fun.
Well, there you go. These are all going to be on stream, by the way.
No,
over on twitch.tv/tacticaltv.
I genuinely would be down to do this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I would like the idea at some point to, like I said earlier, stream through like all the like single player games and stuff that I have from these bundles over the years. Like just going through, like, not necessarily playing them to completion because that would be absurd, but just like picking them up, being like, yeah, this isn't for me, or I don't like this, or I really like this, and actually finishing some of them maybe. Right? But I think we could totally do that. It's like exactly my idea with like multiplayer games. Like we all have enough, right?
Yeah, there's one here that I think would be fun. It's called Desert Mothers. The best way I can describe it is you take acid and just walk in the desert. Then there's Rock and Rush Battle Racing, which just looks like your typical racer, but you instead of winning, you have to kill each other. My personal favorite, Penguin's Arena. You can quite literally guess what that one is. You play a penguin in first person.
That's good.
Then you got Over the Moon, which is a love story about someone who loves the moon too much. But apparently it's got multiplayer on it, and I'm just interested to see how that works. And then I think that was all of them. Oh, and then there was... I don't know if this has multiplayer. Let me... it doesn't, but this game looks absolutely... called Moo Cartography, where it's a treasure finding game. You know how you got that like height map? Like how you got like an extruded height map? It's basically that, but you're looking for treasure. It looks really cool. Really nice idea. But no, Airships is one I'd love to play, try out. It looks like a proper good game.
Sauce.
My only way is there's some games on here that I keep seeing like there was a couple I saw that said early access, and I was like, well, does that mean this version of the game I've got still works? And if so, in its current state? But no, yeah, I would genuinely love to do like I did actually not shortly after buying the bundle play a couple of the games on stream with my girlfriend. One of them most notably being I said it like 10 minutes ago and I've already forgotten. I'm such an idiot. Overland. Overland, I love that game so much. Super Hexagon's on here, for like God's sake. That is a wonderful game. And Last Night. Last Night is a great game. Highly recommend, all of these games. Get them on itch.io, you get the developers get a really good cut out of it. Unfair Jousting, that was banter. Desktop Goose, I wish my girlfriend didn't download that.
Oh, I still got it. Oh yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
It's incredible how many geese you can have.
52 OGG files. Oh yeah.
I'm glad this is now just listing off the game.
Wow. Oceans.
Yeah. We'll have them featured on the podcast next week. Just ocean sounds for you all.
Yeah. We'll definitely play some of these games on stream. I'd love to try some of these out, like the general. I really want to try out fucking called Gladibots. Gladibots? Yeah, gladiator. It's a word.
Nice.
So
wow.
You're welcome. Oh, interesting. It looks like
Also,
you have to code the bots.
I'm not sure if this is still the case. I am not an expert on this with itch. But I believe the way their cut system still works, as in like the amount of the revenue share they take, is pay what you want by the developers. So when you host a game on itch, you can choose the cut that itch gets.
Oh, okay.
Down to 0, up to, I think theoretically you could do 100. So I'm not sure if that's exactly how it works, but I think it still is. Obviously, I believe if you were like a developer publishing on itch through a publisher, the publisher probably has some influence on what you set that to. But as far as I'm aware, yeah, like a purchase on itch does not necessarily give any money to itch, or it could give like 50% of the money to itch, depending on what the person is comfortable with, which I think is a very open and friendly way of doing that.
I would just like to correct myself, by the way. That game I said that looks like Planetary Annihilation, I was completely wrong. It's a game where basically you have robots and you have to code the AI in them, and you know, depending on how you want to code it, you can make them attack, defend, or like it looks like a really cool concept for a multiplayer game, which you know would be interesting. Definitely. Hopefully the multiplayer still works. That's all I can say. But it's got like
it's really an interesting.
Oh, do you want a link to it?
Well, I mean, I've got the thing here.
Oh, it's just, yeah, I'm so glad, I know you mentioned this earlier, but I'm so glad they added a search functionality. Like, I don't know if that wasn't since day one on the bundle, but like scrolling through 59 pages of games, which each page was like 20 games, was, you know, it's nice because you learn and find new stuff, but
I still just wish there was an adults library button. I understand why they might not want to do that by default, because people don't want everything spamming their library, but I want everything in my library. The library is the place where I'm meant to be able to easily sort through my games.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
I found a VR drum game, which, you know, I'm going to have fun
did.
with.
Of course you did.
And, oh yeah, the one I forgot to say, there's a VR billiards game, which I really just want to play.
Oh, no.
A significant portion of the reason I haven't played a lot of the games in this itch bundle when I purchased it, it was just one, some of them I actually like already own on Steam or whatever and have played. It's like those, whatever, they're not really relevant here. But other than that, it's just that like there's like 60 pages of games with like 20 games on each, and I have to go through, and there's no information other than the name, like a short description and the picture. So I have to like open every single one in a new tab, figure out what it is, go, oh yeah, I like that, then go back from that page to the bundle page, then to hit the download button, because I can't just do that from the normal page. And it's just like, it's kind of like really awkward to do, and I just haven't been able to easily sort through them. But if I just had them in my bundle, I probably would, my library, I'm sure, would be able to do that like considerably easier.
Well, okay, the games I recommend.
I'm pretty sure you can sort your library.
The games I recommend are Gladiator. It's spelled GLADIA bots. Then we've got airships, which looks like fun, and what was the other? Penguins, I guess. Penguins Arena. I think those two would be the best to try multiplayer wise. Or maybe Neon Valley Revenge. Yeah, why not?
Yeah.
It's a first and third person multiplayer game. So, you know. Wow, it looks almost like identical to Call of Duty. No, if anybody's curious, by the way, there's a PS Vita going on eBay. It sells in 8 minutes, and it's currently at £75. It still surprises me how much these old portable consoles go for, like DSs and all.
I was just thinking about old portable consoles, perhaps not the PSP and Vita so much from what I remember of their design. Things like the DSs though, like they had a dual screen. That'd be useful for like a modern day one that's running some sort of like proper operating system.
Yeah, a bit like the Windows Surface Duo.
A bit.
Yeah, sure.
No, like someone told me, because this whole thing happening with Sony's console, the store, that the physical games are going up in price, especially the rarer ones. Which I was like, cool, because he literally just came to me and said, "Does anybody here?" Like, we were in a group, and he was like, "Does anybody here have any PlayStation 3 games, like the physical copies?" I'm like, why would I? I get rid of most of my PS4 games. Like I very rarely keep my console games.
Monster.
I still got my Nomads. I still got my No Man's copy version.
Yeah, I'd hope so.
I still got the copy of No Man's Sky for my PlayStation in one of the limited edition boxes.
I would like to see a new DS. The last DS was released in 2017, sorry, which is the 2DS XL. And I feel like as much as that's like relatively recent, like you can probably get away with upgrading a lot of that a little bit. Like even just in like terms of graphical performance, even if you keep the screen relatively similar, right?
I personally don't think they would, because they are they like to concentrate on one device at a time, I find. Like there's rumors there's going to be a new Switch out, which is probably just going to be an upgraded version of the normal Switch. They brought out a new color of the Switch Lite, to be honest, which was
one thing people often forget about Nintendo is they treat Nintendo in kind of a weird way, because Nintendo has a lot of like things that people laugh at them for, such as like the Wii U, right? People are like, God, that was like a particularly bad console. Or like what I will refer to as like most of the 3DSs, isn't that I don't think anyone liked the 3DS gimmick really. Like it was kind of just stupid.
I wanted one, but I was like a kid. Let me find out what that was like.
See, I never wanted a 3DS because I just used my DSi.
No, that's why I wanted it, was because of the cool flying game. Like, why couldn't they have released that cool flying game to Wii, man? I was so excited for that. It's the only reason
I didn't own. I've never yet. I still haven't ever owned one of the like quote 3DS family DSs, like the 2DS or 3DS. I've only ever owned the original.
Oh my
DS
god,
family,
they were released in 2011.
Why, guys? Discord is just failing its
successful games console company by an insane way. Because like if you look at the top selling games consoles, right, of all time,
man.
PlayStation 2. Yep, makes sense. PS2 was a very popular console and a very good console.
And help that someone in.
And Nintendo DS family. Quite that is including the whole family, but no, yeah, like I would agree it's fair enough to consider that most of the DSs are just like progressions of the same console, like in the way that a new Switch could be considered that, like fair enough. It didn't add anything in like the Wii versus the Wii U sense, right? Like it was kind of just like the exact same thing, still two screens, still the same buttons. There's a 3D gimmick now. Now it can't fold for some reason. Continuing on. And then it's the Game Boy and Game Boy Color, which are combined for relatively fair enough reasons, I'd say. PlayStation 4, then PlayStation, then it's Wii, then PlayStation 3,
there's definitely
Xbox 360,
there's two companies here. Yeah,
PSP, then Switch, 3DS, NES, SNES, Nintendo 64.
Wait, no. Did you say what was after Xbox 360?
Game Boy Advance, family.
And then PSP.
And then PSP.
So Sony's is there numbers with these?
Yes, the only issue is that the PSP is an estimate because the numbers were never released. It's estimated 80 to 82 million. The Game Boy Advance family sold 81.51 million.
And the Xbox?
360 sold 84 million.
So PlayStation's first console device almost beat Xbox's probably best-selling console. Oh yeah, best-selling console, isn't it?
Xbox's best-selling console, yeah, 360.
Yeah, okay.
PS3 was 87.4 million. I mean, the jump, even this jump, PlayStation 3 to Wii goes from 87.4 million to 101.6. Right?
Yeah.
Original PlayStation sold 102 million. PlayStation 4 sold 150 million. PS4, very successful console.
Yeah.
Game Boy and Game Boy Color is 120 million. Nintendo DS family is 150, and PlayStation 2 is 155. Like it's the jumps of some of those is like quite crazy to comprehend, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
It's
I like a lot of Nintendo's consoles.
I do. I just love
how
like
absolutely the best game console ever made. Just saying.
Oh no, definitely. It brought families together.
Which was fucking great. It was innovative. It was fun. It was unique.
Yeah.
Like, it was just a fucking great console.
It was. It was. I don't know if it's really been happened. Like it was a console made for the family and actually was played by the family. I can't think of many consoles like that.
Yeah.
Like genuinely.
Fair. To be fair, I can't think of many consoles in recent generations, and that's going to make me sound older than I want to. that I would say I ever played with my family. Like PlayStation 3 and Xbox 360 onwards, I did not play with my family. Like we played games like in the front room, and we often had things where like ex-family member was playing the game and I was playing through the game, and we would like talk about it. But like playing with a thing, we would like take turns playing for single player games or play I haven't done that since the PS2 and PS1.
Yeah, I would say the
And
close.
to be fair, like we played a lot of PS1 and PS2 co-op in my family. Like my dad and my mum played a lot together on the PS1 and PS2, and me and my dad played a lot together on the PS1 and PS2. Like that was a big part of my childhood gaming wise. But yeah, like that really just stopped in the later generations. I'm not sure exactly why. Like PS2 is my most fond console memory wise, like by a long way.
Yeah.
I love the PS2 a lot. But I think the Wii wins out on like the actual edge of the actual quality if I had to like properly review them.
I would say the closest we're getting to that now is VR games. I know it's not a console, but like that's one of those. It's one of those things where you can play it by yourself and with mates online, as much as you can play it and you like a house party. You know, in my opinion, it's one of those just fun experiences. Like a Wii, I guess. They playing Wii bowling for the first time.
I obviously I know there's like the thing of like nostalgia glasses. Like games will always look better. But will look better generally in your mind than like if you were to load them up now and you'd be like, oh yeah, that looked like shit. Apparently the Wii's resolution was 480.
Yeah.
Like I remember being at least 720. Like because that was the thing. Like you played on a proper TV, not like a little handheld or a small screen. I was like on a TV. That's mad.
You know, it is. I think quite entertaining because I was looking at the 3DS family, right? Because I was talking about the most recent one on Wikipedia. So the latest DS is the 2DS XL, which has the physically larger screens on it.
Okay.
Right? I get an exact size of them.
Aren't the resolutions like?
No, but I can tell you that it's 16 centimeters by 8 centimeters by 20 centimeters.
They use centimeters for screen size.
Well, whatever. It's not screen size. It's the physical dimension.
Oh,
not
okay.
the point.
Yeah.
Point is, it's a larger screen than the standard DS is, and the resolution of the top screen is a whopping 400 by 240. The resolution of the bottom screen is 320 by 240. And I'm like, holy fuck, man! They haven't upgraded the DS's screens
How
since
did we
the fucking original ones. Like, it's that they have, but
you remember you remember the chat you would like the local chat you could use. I always used it in the car on holiday, like going up to when you would go on holiday. Yeah, I would always use it like just messaging my sister next to me or just drawing random.
Some random car of a lights.
Yeah. But how did we even read the text on that small of a resolution?
Like I'm actually going to load up a YouTube video in 480p now on my phone, and it's going to be unbearable for me. Let me find a proper video, not a.
I do remember that 3D
Payday 2 gameplay.
3D XL, you could count the pixels.
One thing that's specifically special as well about like emulation, going back to tie this into what we were talking about earlier, is that when these consoles die off, the markets die off, you can't buy the games anymore anywhere, digitally or physically. One of the coolest things about emulation is that, for example, one of the biggest GameCube and Wii emulators can scale the
Discord is really having trouble today. I do apologize.
And that's not like upping the resolution of the textures, obviously.
Yeah, Discord.
Just to pause this, right? I think that's our third or fourth drop from Discord.
Discord is having issues this evening today.
Oh, we're gonna have to go over to TeamSpeak just for the podcast. This is
yeah. So what I was saying is,
we'll go to Mumble.
Emulators can often like up the resolution that these consoles are running at, right? Emulation-wise, right? Like what you can do with the Wii, for example, and running Wii games at 1080p. Like while obviously the textures are still the textures that the game files are at, and all of that. But being able to actually just like display them at 1080p makes a way bigger difference than you would think. It's crazy. It's like really cool to like watch like a Mario Kart Wii when it's actually natively running like at full resolution on your PC. Like it looks really good because most of the textures in those games are pretty cartoony, and if you're scaling them up and looking at them in high detail, it honestly doesn't matter that much. Like
it still works. It looks well. You remember that one time we all streamed Mario Party? Mario Party Mighty Kart. That was a lot of fun.
I still miss the original backwards compatibility method that they did for the PS3 to get backwards compatibility for the PS2.
I don't remember. What did you use in the disc?
So this changed in later releases of the PS3 to software emulation, but the way they did the PS2 emulation on the original PS3 was they literally just had a PS2 inside it.
Oh,
Like it's the CPU of the PS2. Obviously didn't bother like copying like the power delivery because they just use the same one that they use for the PS3. But like the actual physical CPU was just on board, and if you played a PS2 game, it just used that.
Yeah,
phenomenal.
it's the better way of doing it.
Then again, how much was that first console priced? That was like £700 in 2000 and.
It was $5.99 for the 60GB model and $4.99 for the 20GB model.
Which was
20GB and 60GB, man. Oh,
that dates it right there.
Do you know what's depressing though? I still I'm sure we all have that point, right, where we grew up with different consoles, right? But there was the console generation change going from A to B. There was like the upgrade, right? That was the one that was like, wow, right? And then ever since it's just been like, yeah, we've obviously like comparing like a PS5 to a PlayStation 1 is absurd. But like, you know, you might not have necessarily felt as a child that PS1 to PS2 was like that big a thing. But for me, that was PlayStation 2 to PlayStation 2 to PlayStation 3, or original Xbox to Xbox 360. Not that I owned an original Xbox, right? I don't know anyone owned an original Xbox because who gave a shit about that console? 24 million people.
Boyfriend did.
I
That's
had
how I played
Nemo on that on the original.
What depresses me is to remember that the Xbox 360 came out in 2005 and the PlayStation 3 came out in 2006. Like, that just is absurd to me because I was probably playing the PlayStation 2. Obviously, they had like both of those consoles had a lot of renditions and like extra models, right? Like the Xbox 360 Premium technically and all this shit, right? And the PlayStation 3 Slim and all this shit. But what depresses me is that I remember like the last year that I was probably like playing the PS2 in a sense of like this is like the console that's just like not even that we own, just like that's just like the current console. It was probably like easily like maybe around 07, 08, and that's probably when we got a Wii, and the Wii came out in 06 as well. And it's like holy shit! Like I realized like how delayed we were on upgrading the console generations. Like the first PS3 I would have seen would have been at my friend's house, and I would have definitely been like 8 or 9 when I went over to his place.
I still remember having my PS3 because I remember one of the early memories I have of it. I can't remember much beforehand, but I was allowed to play Modern Warfare 2 for the first time online with a mic.
What?
I know, and the first day I did that, I made a friend that I had for a couple years. He ended up moving to Xbox, which was the saddest day of my life. Because he was like the only friend I consistently played with, and this was back in the day, and I can't remember, like I could never imagine a world like this today, but this was still when parties weren't a thing. So all chat to friends was always in a game lobby. Every time you would message someone saying, "Oh, you're gonna be on?" Yeah, and then you get into a game lobby, and then you're just talking in public consistently. Still amazes me people open mic today. Time. Yeah, but I remember, yeah, that was one of my early memories of it. I do, yeah. Modern Warfare 2 was the first game I played online. No, it wasn't. It was a Resident. Not Resident Evil. It was a Resistance. It was a PlayStation exclusive. I remember playing online.
I never I hardcore did not play online games until PC, which I actually think had a huge influence on my my gaming tastes.
Missed out
because like a lot of people I know that played on consoles played like COD, or like Halo or Battlefield, right? And they there was that sort of multiplayer sort of like culture that those games have similarities and differences between, obviously, but in general closer to like a lot of the stuff that I played. The only multiplayer experience that I played for like an extended period of time would have been Red Dead Redemption Online. And I would have played that on the 360. But again, that's like a very different style of game. It's like a few people in a server, and you occasionally run into each other. It was more akin to like an MMO than it was like a multiplayer game, right? Like you're not playing on like teams, like so I really never had a single like I am playing a team multiplayer game until PC. And even then I wouldn't have had that until like what would have been the first like team multiplayer game I played.
Overwatch.
Probably Counter-Strike Source.
Okay.
Ooh, okay.
I just
like, yeah, it's weird. Like, it's such a weird thing to think about to me because just my entire gaming childhood, all the nostalgia I have around gaming. I know so many people that have nostalgia around like early COD lobbies and the friends they made, and the the excitement of getting on and being able to speak to people and ask how their day at school had been and play games with them. Like, I just had none of that. Like, everything was single player platformers. Like a very early like PS. I mean, I played the PS2 for so many years, like after I should have been playing it, like by generation standards. Um, like I know it was just like kind of how my family rolled at that time, I guess. Um, like the PS2 had online capability with the modem, and we still have the modem somewhere in one of our boxes. But like, no one played that shit really. Like,
I've still got a PS2
I
8
just played
megabyte.
like Grand Theft Auto and Gran Turismo and
I mean, I didn't know that the
shit.
PlayStation had like a. I remember I must have seen it on the back of boxes and been really confused where it said like 4-player local multiplayer or LAM or whatever. Didn't realize that was a goddamn adapter until literally a couple of years ago that just gave you like more controllers. I don't know why it was so well hidden.
I still have a PS2 8 megabyte memory card. Blue, transparent, one of my favorite memory cards of all. But
oh no, I'd never liked those tacky looking ones. Like just a nice solid.
It's not tacky. You just also
yes, it is.
You just reminded me of it. I loved Red Dead, the first Red Dead Redemption Online. Genuinely one of the best experiences.
Literally one of my best experiences ever playing a game.
But I think that was helped by, and this is something I think people forget because I completely forgot about it because obviously we've got GTA 5. GTA 4 didn't have open world multiplayer. It was missions and missions only. And it was 4 players max.
Yeah.
Which, like if you were to say someone, if someone had never, or one of the newer generations, I would have thought they probably never played GTA 4 and only ever experienced 5. If you told them that, they probably wouldn't believe you. Because, GTA 5 is that sort of standard open world multiplayer now that everybody plays. Like, is just what GTA should have been, in my opinion.
I mean, like, the list of, like, multiplayer games on, like, the PlayStation 2 is quite hilarious. It's so minimal. The online multiplayer, sorry, I should specify. Like, it's really quite short. Some high...
And it's gone again. I do apologise, podcast. We'll get over it.
Totally going to be amazing.
Oh, another Discord drop there, at least for me.
We'll probably have to wrap it up soonish.
Deer Hunter was the game I was mentioning.
Oh, okay.
We should do like the Hunter stream, but with Deer Hunter on a PS2 emulator.
Yes. Oh, I do remember that game. I had a game like that with a gun, like a physical gun. It was like did any of you ever play? Any of you ever play either in arcade or on the PS2? Because I remember having the physical gun for it too. Is what's it called? It's Time something. Very big
Time
arcade.
Splitters?
That's it. God, I remember that was one of my favourite games on the PS2. I missed that.
Did you say that Grand Theft Auto 4 had what was it, 4-player multiplayer? Sorry,
I swear it was only 4-player, maybe 6-player. It wasn't open world though.
True. No, not exactly. No, it was like in an open world setting, but like distinct missions.
Yeah, like you couldn't just. It wasn't like typical GTA 5. Which is the thing is, I want to play GTA 4 again.
Look at the list of like.
Oh my god! Oh, we were all having conversations. We were all talking.
I thought you stopped because you like stopped at the end of a sentence. Oh my god! Hang on.
Oh man!
Hang on.
Are we changing?
We'll call it a day in a moment. We'll talk a couple more things about these classic games.
What happened?
Was that because you? Oh, okay. I thought that was you.
Okay, yeah, we may have to start. We'll start finishing it up in a moment. Oh no, there is a free mode.
I don't have a server on my PC anymore.
Oh, no. Is there?
Yeah, it's 2 to 16
I thought it could
players.
do like. I was trying to say, I'm pretty sure I've seen like YouTubers I play more than 4-player, but I wondered if they'd like modded or something. When I looked it up, and it seems to be like up to 32 in total.
My things about GTA 4 that are better than GTA 5 is the
There's a lot.
The cars so much better. The damage engine so much better. The story.
Having never played it, I heard the cars handled like bricks.
They did, but they had weight to them, and the damage models on them were so much better. So much better than GTA 5, in my opinion.
Okay.
I also just want to tell this quick story. I may have said on the podcast quickly.
I
only remembered this because I remember saying on the podcast before, on the PS2, I used to play with a good friend. We've had him on the podcast actually, Luke. We completed Medal of Honor Pacific. I can't remember the actual name of it, but one of the Medal of Honors, one of the early ones, we completed that like 4 times in co-op. But that reminds me when we played Borderlands 2, I didn't know there was a thing as save and load. So we had replayed that game from the start 5 or 6 times with different characters. I just wasn't aware you could save and load. So I still haven't to this day completed Borderlands 2. Just because I've not had the time or effort to play it recently. I may in VR, because why not?
I'm looking at like the online games.
The PS2.
And my favorite thing is like many of them I like remember. I don't just remember playing them online, but I would recognize the game, right? Some of which are online in like a very awkward way, like original Call of Duty games and stuff, like the early ones. There's some like Colin McRae Rally 2005, which is only playable online in PAL for some reason. You got like your Final Fantasy games, FIFA games, that sort of stuff.
Gross.
You expect. You got Resident Evil Outbreak, which is a good game.
Best game I've ever seen.
And then my favorite part is there's just like 20 poker games. Just
really?
like because of course there are like. Of course you can just have like one poker. No, or at least like 20 multiplayer poker games. But my favorite. This is a fucking World Championship paintball game that has no Wikipedia article that was apparently multiplayer playable on the PlayStation 2. And I want to fucking play this game. It sounds amazing.
We're going to have to YouTube gameplay and see what we can
pull sounds like so entertaining to me.
You know what, I think the last thing to end this podcast on is the story, and this only came up because you're talking about the sales numbers for the consoles. I was going to say jokingly, were the PS2 ones inflated because someone in the Middle East was trying to make a supercomputer out of PS2s? If I'm not wrong.
What?
I don't know if it was PS2 or PS3.
I do vaguely have heard the thing that you're talking about, but I have no idea.
This sounds like such a playground story, and I've never heard of it, but I love it. I need to look this up.
Yeah. I should note that like from the list of things that I was reading from, like a lot of the sales of consoles were like commonly sold in like bundles where like you'd get like them with a game, which I guess like is arguably important because it's important. I feel like when you can get like a console and a game, it more interests someone in buying the console outright, right? Because they know that they can just like take it home and immediately play something. So I do like influence sales numbers a lot. Like that's a very like a classic thing that like Nintendo did a lot of their consoles. Also, one of the reasons that some of the best
wait. I just want to read this quick thing. I haven't heard about this, but I love this. This is kind of going on to what I was talking about, so I'm just reading an article. But Japan had. This is talking about how Japan had suspicion about a foreign civilian technology being used for military use, because they found a North Korean submarine which had sunk in 1998. Apparently it was found running a number of Japanese-made communications and radar devices, which could have been PS2 or made from PS2 components.
So I just looked up the most sold consoles by region. And I can confirm
supercomputers. I just wanted to
that the Middle East most sold console was the PlayStation 2.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
I wonder if that's
5.2 million units.
I wonder if that's to do with anything, like genuinely.
I'm finding like the US quite famously apparently had like it's the PlayStation 3, but there are different PlayStation clusters. But apparently US Air Force had like 1,760 PlayStation 3s to build a supercomputer.
Which
what the hell?
Wait, Well, at the time
This
was
is
the
mad.
33rd most powerful computer on the in the world.
Wasn't it partly because like we didn't have like the fab capacity that we do now, like going like tying everything back in together because we're good at this? But like they were just being used to produce consoles, so it made sense to just buy up the consoles and then use them.
Oh, here we go. Here's what I heard. So, okay, this probably isn't confirmed. I don't know if there is any confirmed things about it, but the right-wing blog WorldNet Daily fanned the flames when it reported that Iraq violated the ban in December 2000, bringing in approximately 4,000 PS2 units. They had claimed that Saddam Hussein intended to connect them together to pilot unmanned drones and perform nuclear test simulations. That's what I remember hearing. I didn't want to say the name just in case I was wrong, but that's what I heard.
Man.
But I just love that idea of just like, just buy a shit ton of PlayStations, connect them together, there you go, you've got a supercomputer.
Oh man, yeah, it seems like from what I can see, it seems like there might be truth in like potential. Actually, that might not even be true. Don't matter. I'm just gonna shut my mouth. I was gonna say it was possible that they did buy or like somehow get the PS2s, but there was no confirmation on the supercomputer bit.
Okay.
But then I couldn't find confirmation on them getting the PS2, so I don't want to like say for sure. But it shows that there was that application though, like potentially.
Oh, apparently
I found an interesting discrepancy in the regional data for console sales.
Oh, I just wanted to say before you say that, apparently Sony applied a blacklist to sell the PS2 at the time, or consoles, the PS2, to Libya, Iraq, Iran, and North Korea.
Yeah. I don't imagine the North Korean one's been lifted, but
I doubt any of them have, to be completely honest.
Oh, yeah.
Anyway, it's complicated.
Just note the PS2 isn't sold anymore, so
That's true. Oh, yeah, but the
immediate issues with that logic.
To be fair, honest, it was sold until what, 2014?
For future consoles as well. All right.
Around that, yeah.
That lasted a hell of a long time when it comes to construction. Like they were still building that.
Maybe Hussein got them all off eBay.
Yeah. So an interesting thing. If you look at the United States, the top selling consoles in order: DS, PS2, Wii, PlayStation, 3DS, SNES. For Europe, this is the whole of Europe: PS2, Game Boy, Wii, PlayStation, DS, 3DS, Game Boy Advance, Switch. That is very Nintendo and Sony heavy, which is honestly impressive to me, considering like how I feel like I know a lot of people that like grew up on Xbox in the UK specifically. But at the same time, I'm glad. Like I'm like I don't like Xboxes that much personally. Not that I like PS3 or PS4 or PS5 either personally, but I like Sony's early consoles a lot. I like Nintendo's early consoles a lot.
So this was the thing I find quite funny, because it's kind of ironic that, in my opinion, I think the reason the Xbox was so heard of and well-rounded is because it had one Halo and Call of Duty. So it was in this circle of multiplayer games, like you mentioned earlier, where it was like a very set amount of people playing these games constantly, day in, day out, talking to their mates about it. And I just find that ironic because it was the only console at the time that you had to pay to go online, which I want to add, they've only just recently lifted the need to pay to play online games which are free to play. For example, Warzone, War Thunder, or any free to play game, which I just find. That really shocked me that you had to have Xbox Live to play free-to-play games. And
this isn't a funny thing. As someone that just mentioned, I grew up not playing online games. I grew apart from like one or two. I grew up on early consoles more than I did the technical consoles that had way more online stuff anyway that were released at the time, and all of that stuff. Very used to single player and local co-op in my childhood. I genuinely did not know until like a year ago that it would become standard you had to pay to play online on consoles. It blew my fucking mind. Like it completely shattered everything that I'd ever thought about the point of a console to me was less maintenance, buy thing, play games, and not buy thing, pay 2 subscription fees, also sometimes play games. Like, and it is still beyond me that it is considered expected for you to pay a subscription fee to be able to access online services for these games.
It disappointed me Sony when that routed the PS4 and 5 because that was one of the best things about the PS3 is the fact that you could play any game you wanted online at any time for free. You know, do whatever you want. Admittedly, didn't have the party system that the Xbox had, and we wouldn't have got that until the PS4. But you know, I still had a shit ton amount of fun playing free. If I saw someone on an Xbox at that point in time, I would go, I don't care. You can talk in a party. You have to pay 60 quid a year to play with your mates and talk to your mates. You know,
Yeah.
I don't have to pay a single penny. And there was actually a MOBA shooter that I used to play called Mag, which was the first of its kind. If I'm not wrong, it's basically, I think there was 100-player servers on it, which, don't forget, this is 2010, 2012 we're talking. So that's not heard of, first-person shooter. And that was hella underrated. I loved that game.
Discord's back. There we go.
Oh my god.
Yeah, at least the stream
For
would have
once,
heard
it's not you who's eager to get this over with.
Anyway,
it's Discord that's trying to stop us.
I think we should start wrapping it up. So,
Oh, why did I say it?
but if is there any last things you'd like to talk about?
Yeah, I was just saying on the model of subscriptions for online. Part of that is probably like the move towards selling consoles at a loss and making profits on the games, right? It makes sense. It's a very stable income to have like a subscription that a good portion of your user base is paying. But like I don't know, a lot of the early consoles were also sold at the loss at a loss and just like they managed to make money and like I don't know, PC games kind of do fine and can host servers for a good many years. And then the benefit of PC is that normally, well, it does happen on console as well. In fact, it was a portion of the article I was reading about PlayStation 2 games. Normally, people end up creating like their own dedicated servers or ways of playing these multiplayer systems, for a third-party service. So, yeah, just fuck that part of consoles, honestly.
Yeah.
That just really sucks.
Yeah.
It really is awful.
Yeah, and fuck Xbox for how long they suffer. What about yourself, Si Phelan?
Yes.
I didn't know if you wanted. I thought you wanted to say something.
No,
okay.
Nothing shot to mind. I would like to promote twitch.tv/tacticaltv, of course. But...
getting there before I even say it. And what about yourself, Alfie? I thought Discord went down again.
Yep, me too. You can't pause.
It just caught me off guard a second. I don't fucking know.
Wow.
Support indie devs, donate money to charity.
Okay, there we go. Good to
play these games online.
We will find an itchy day.
I've got too many.
PlayStation 2 is the best console.
It is. I've got too many tabs open. It's making me sick. No, thank you very much, you two. It's been wonderful.
It's something.
Definitely been something. Yeah,
It still just blows my mind how good the fucking PlayStation Eye was in comparison to bloody the Kinect. I mean, come on, Sony just absolutely decimated it. Like, you should end the podcast at this point. I mean, it's just fucking. I think it was awesome, bro.
Trying to remember, was the Tiger game Kinect or PlayStation?
I want to say Kinect.
Okay. Because I remember that being like the worst game of that group.
There was one game on the Xbox that I absolutely adored, and I just want to say this for the people watching this online because I've ended the stream. There was a Banjo-Kazooie game on the Xbox 360 where you had to make vehicles, and that was the most fun I'd ever had on the Xbox. But it was one of the worst Banjo-Kazooie selling games ever because obviously it went away from Banjo-Kazooie and Banjo-Kazooie. Anyway, thank you very much everybody for watching, and we'll see you in the next podcast.
Ta-ra.
Oh.
Ta-ra.